I have long talked about core values and other values, and I think some values change and some don't. And really, I think that at least in part, your core values don't shift, don't change. It just shifts how they show up in your life. But I could be wrong. So, my friend, I'm so glad you're here. I need you to help me settle an argument. Well, a disagreement. I'm glad you're here. It is that time again. Please grab your legend pack, crank that speaker to 11. Welcome to Legend. I was having a conversation with a client just yesterday, and we were talking about core values. They were having well, I'm sure you probably have experienced this, where you have a client that you thought was like ideal client, and the more you get working with them, you're like, oh, we actually disagree on some really fundamental things. Specifically, you have a core value that's out of alignment. They're not completely in sync with you when it comes to something that is like a complete deal breaker for you. And I said, perhaps you have a core value it's out of alignment, it's disconnected, and you get to decide if their value is going to change, if the way they show up is going to change. Because I said, really, fundamentally, your core values don't change. My client said, no, 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 I totally disagree. The things that I valued when I was 14 are not the things I'm valuing right now. The things I valued when I first launched my business are not the same that I valued now, 20 years later. They thought that their values had changed, their core values had changed. So tell me what you think. Please feel free, drop a note. Do you think that the core values that you established, because we are all told to do this, right? You launch your business. Okay, what are your core values? Okay, we have our ethics, we have honesty, we have integrity, we have, like, these are some of the basics, right? It's like, here's a standard. And then you think, okay, well, actually, part of what I really, after you've been in business for a year or so, you realize that there are some things that are more important to you than you thought they may have been originally. Like, you didn't realize that it was part of your value system. Oh, it's important to me to have a really positive, uplifting, welcoming brand culture for my team. So sometimes you don't think about that because when you first launch your business, you don't have a team. And a year or two later, when you have some people on your staff or when you're working with other people on team, now you become aware that that is a core value for you. Did it actually change? Did you establish a new core value? Or did you just become aware of something that was always there? So for example, if at age 14, you had these values of, I have my friends, I have those people I love, and I will do anything for my friends. And at age 14, perhaps you were a little sheltered, you had lived in a small town, so your friends looked exactly like you did. They did the same things you did. They had the same belief system that you did, right? We're talking, I want to say he was raised in the 60s. So your belief system, perhaps when you are young, is I love my friends, I'll do anything for my friends. And at the time, they all look exactly like me. Fast forward 40 years, 50 years, 60, and it's no, 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 because back then I didn't realize how important diversity was to me and how important inclusivity was to me. So my value has shifted because back then this wasn't so important. I didn't think about this back then. And now that I'm older and more seasoned and I have team, it's critical. I want to make sure everyone on my team feels safe, feels welcome, feels absolutely exactly where they should be, and is allowed to shine in their position. So I'm asking you, help me figure this out. Did his core value shift, or did it just expand? His behavior clearly has shifted since he was 14, now he's in the 60s. But did his actual core value change? I maintain, and I'm open, it was a really great conversation, and I'm thrilled that it made me think about this a little bit. So I invite you to analyze it for yourself. I have long held that core values don't change. That as you get older, they impact your behavior differently. They manifest differently in your daily life. For example, one of the things I talk about is courage. One of my core values is courage. And I can look at that, and at age 14, actually, let me back up clear back before when I remember. At age 4, courage showed up in my family moved to a new town. I was 4 years old. While they were unloading the moving truck, I was running down the sidewalk, introducing myself to all the neighbors. I met all the neighbors, well, at least the first 5 or 6 houses, before my parents did. At age 4, that's how courage showed up, is no fear. I will just go and introduce myself because I'm a friendly person. I think I just wanted the ice cream, which is where I ended up, is having ice cream with a sweet lady who was saving me from myself until my parents could find me. At age 24, my courage came to, I fell in love, I wanted to get married, I wanted to finish my degrees first. And so courage was shifting everything I had been up to that point. My religious and faith-based behavior shifted. I was looking at getting married, so I'm leaving behind all the single life, all the college life. So I looked at that in courage and thought, everything about me is shifting. That was courage at that age, right? At age 30, I don't know, another 10, 12 years later, somewhere in my 30s, I launched my business. That was courage to me, because at that age, in that moment in my, and it's not about age necessarily, it's just at that point in my life, courage was showing up as, I'm letting go of my insurance, all my benefits. I'm letting go of the stability of a salary. I knew exactly how much I was going to make every 2 weeks, and that way I could budget. And I made the leap, much like so many of you have. It is courageous to say, I want something more. I know I am meant for bigger. I know I am meant for more. I'm going to leap. I don't know how I will land, but it's all about the jumping. So here we go. At that point in my life, that was courage. At this point in my life, with a child, with the world the way it is, I find courage in not just me showing up, but in me showing up for the people that I love, for the people that perhaps do not yet have a voice or do not yet feel safe to share their voice. In the early 90s, it would not have necessarily been a thing for me. Well, that's not true, actually. No, it was true back in elementary school. My intention, my absolute focus to love and support and be an oasis for people of the LGBTQ community is unwavering. I don't think that in the first couple of years of my business, not because my core value wasn't there, but because when I first started my business, that was not my focus. It was absolutely there. I love my people. I love, love, love all of my people. But now it is more of a focus for me. It impacts more of my behavior. My core value hasn't shifted, but the way it impacts my decision making and my behavior has absolutely changed. But I don't think my core value has. I've always been sticking up for the little guy. I've always been, because I was the little guy. I was that person who didn't get to have my voice. And so I insisted on it. I absolutely insisted on it. And so for those who do not yet have theirs or have a stage to share it, I am here for you. That is a big thing for me. That's part of my purpose. So I can look at that and think, wow, over the last 40 something years, has that core value shifted, or is it just my behavior and my awareness and perhaps my focus? So what do you think? I know that you identified core values when you launched your business. And I also know, I'm going to assume, because of my experience in this area, they've shifted in a way that you have become more aware. You have more clearly defined them. I know that for those of you who have gone through the Rockstar Brand program, we have actually rated them, ranked them. Some core values are incredibly important, and some are absolute deal breakers. If you do not align with me here, I will still work with you and it's going to be fine. And if you do not align with me here, I'm out and we're done. So I know that if you've heard me talk about, like, we get to rank those and how our value system absolutely impacts our behavior. So I invite you to share, drop a note and say, yep, my core values are exactly the way they were 20 years ago. They're exactly the same as 10 years ago. Or Amber, actually, I let go of some of the things I thought so precious, but I no longer believe them. I no longer keep them. I have let go of them. I have moved on because I'm curious to see if they actually change or if it's just because of the clarity, it shifts the way it manifests. I'm curious to find out. So please drop a note. Tell me what you think. Tell me how your core values have shifted. And if they have, which they probably have at least, again, clarified, you have clarified them differently. Your priorities have most certainly shifted since you first started your business. I'm wondering, how are you sharing that with your team? How are you sharing that with your audience? Do they know what you stand for today? Do they know what the deal breakers are for you today in this moment? That's part of your brand, but it's also part of how you create that brand culture in your team. And if that's employees or if that's outsourced, if that's JV partners, if that's colleagues, if that's mastermind people, how are you sharing your current absolute deal-breaking values with the people around you? How does it show up in a way that they can align themselves with you or get out of the way? Drop me a note. Let me know how it's going. And until I can see you and give you a great big hug, stay safe and rock on.